Welcome to Seahawks Today by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Megan Payton, and today's video is presented by Magic Spoon. Magic Spoon is delicious cereal that also is healthy. We're going to tell you all about this later on, but go to magicspoon.com/Seahawks to get $5 off of your order today. And another really upsetting loss for the Seahawks against the Vikings. They fell short 30-17 in this week 3 matchup, and honestly, just disappointing. We've talked about this last week about the way that the momentum shifts in that second half and how they just can't keep it up. Their offense is slacking. The defense is slacking. It's not what we need in order for the Seahawks to have a chance to survive in this competitive NFC West division. I mean, right now, all of the other teams are undefeated. San Fran's playing as we speak, but Cardinals won today, Rams won today, and this is just not what we want. And it's early on in the season, so I don't want to overreact and kind of make assumptions early on. But when you're playing in such a competitive division, you've got to start winning. You've got to start performing better. It's not even about this single loss. To me, it's about a lot of things. It's about the way that the defense is looking like as a whole. It's about the way that the offense kind of slacks in the second half. All of this we're going to get into. But before we talk about anything, I want to know right now, how would you grade the Seahawks performance overall? Go to the comments right now. Give them an A, B, C, D, or F. Let me know what you guys think. It's hard. We said this last week. If we're talking about the first half, I'd give it probably like a B, B plus. The second half drops off. Now we're at like a C or a C minus. But let me know what you guys are thinking in the comments. Before we get into what went wrong this week, let's just look at some injuries that happened. Nothing too serious at all, actually. Jordyn Brooks, we thought was going to be a serious injury because he got carted off during the game. It appeared that he just had some cramps. So I guess they were really bad cramps. Pete Carroll did say that. So they carted him off, but he ended up returning to the game. So he's good to go. Good to hear that nothing at all is serious with him. Same thing with Tyler Lockett. Tyler Lockett had to kind of limp off with what it was a knee injury. Pete Carroll said in his press conference, it essentially just got kind of like tangled up and he was just being cautious. But again, he went back out and he's fine. So we're good on the injury side of things with today's game. Happy. I guess that's a positive we can look at. But there's a lot of issues right now and a lot of things that the Seahawks are going to be looking at this week. The first one, it's the same thing as last week against the Titans. The offense is falling apart in the second half. And you look at the first half and it's fantastic. And you see how Russell Wilson is doing. You see how DK's doing and these guys, and it looks promising. I don't know what's happening, but the momentum and the ability for them to keep the score going and keep that up is just falling apart. You can't have 23 unanswered points and expect to win games like that. This is a 4-quarter game, and until we can see a full 4-quarter performance, I don't know how the Seahawks expect to really improve. But I do trust this offense. You've got some of the biggest playmakers on this team with Russell, DK, Tyler Lockett, and a lot of other guys. So I do feel I feel like the Seahawks can't overcome this. To me, this isn't the most discouraging part. And hey, before we talk about other things that went wrong, let's point out a couple of good things. DK Metcalf is back, and I know that some of you guys in the comments last week were already like getting heated with him, saying he's underperforming. Tyler Lockett's so much better than him. But let's give credit where credit's deserved. DK Metcalf did really well today. This was by far his best game in all 3 weeks of the game. And I don't know, maybe he's just feeling a little bit better. We talked about how he was dealing with a little bit of an injury. It seems that he feels healthy now. He put up he had 6 receptions and he had 107 yards today and he had a touchdown. So I feel really encouraged by DK Metcalf. This is one of the positives of this game. And before we get into the negatives, if you guys want to just eat away your feelings, please go check out Magic Spoon. Magic Spoon is healthy cereal that tastes delicious, so you won't feel bad about eating your feelings. I've got my peanut butter box right here. This is my favorite flavor right now. I'm going to be eating all of this after this video is over, but they are high. It's high in protein, it's low in carbs, and it's got 0 net grams of carbs whatsoever. So I'm telling you, go check them out right now. It's magicspoon.com/Seahawks. You can get $5 off of your order today. Next up on things that initial reactions, initial takeaways for this game is lots of Metcalf in the first half. We said that, but also a way better use of the running game. This was an area that I was concerned about last week. This is where we talked about Shane Waldron kind of needing to improve the run game and utilize guys like Chris Carson more, and he did. I'm impressed by that. I think Chris Carson had a really decent game. He had what did he have? A 30-yard score. He just overall played better, and they just used him more. That's really what it is that they're finding ways to use the run game when it's needed. And we saw this with Alex Collins. Also, Alex Collins, not as much, but he's a guy that got 2 carries for 8 yards. It's not a lot, but what I'm happy and encouraged about is the way that Shane Waldron is kind of utilizing and showing, hey, the run game is important. And if we can improve in this area, we can have multiple threats. It's not just going to fall all on Russell's hands. And so I'd say they did a good job, and the offensive line did a good job at allowing pockets for Alex Collins and Chris Carson to get through. And they were without Brandon Shell. Brandon Shell, right tackle, he's out dealing with an injury. So they had Jamarco Jones come in and kind of step in for him. Now, he was dealing with an upset stomach during the game. So if you saw that kind of shift in and out between Jamarco Jones and Jake Curhan, Pete Carroll said that was just because of Jones's stomach issues. Hopefully it's not COVID related and he just wasn't feeling well. But I think that's another area that I'm excited about. I think the offensive line did look really well. But this is just not, I don't care how well the offensive line looks. I don't care how well Russell looks, DK looks. You can't have no points in the second half and expect things to go well. I mean, so I'll have my standouts for this game, some positives, some negatives, but what's your biggest standout in week 3? It doesn't have to be positive. What do you think stood out when you're watching this Vikings game? To me, I'll give it a positive one. To me, what stood out was DK. I'm excited just to see the way that he almost feels like he's calmed his emotions too. He seems like he's thinking more logically. He's just performing better. I think he's a lot more healthy now. So that's my standout, my positive standout of this week 3 game. Now, as we look on to areas that need to be improved, the secondary is still a problem. And we've talked about Tre Flowers, and I know that we want to maybe I want to find a reason to give him hope, but it just wasn't there today. There were so many just misreads. I don't know. It almost feels like sometimes he's running the wrong route. That's how off he is sometimes from these receivers. And to be honest, DJ Reed didn't look great either. So you've got 2 guys that just aren't promising. And when you've got good receivers that you've got to have these guys block, you just can't trust them. So it's now time. And even Pete Carroll was asked during the press conference after the game, do we start Sidney Jones? Are we at that place now? I think so. If you guys think so, go to the comments right now. Type Y for yes if you think it's time to put Sidney Jones in. If not, type N for no. We talked about, hey, maybe a perfect scenario would be for them to bring in another cornerback. But right now, just talking about the roster that the Seahawks currently have, I think it's time to start switching things up. Let me know in the comments what you think. And also, guys, we are here to provide you with Seahawks content all season long, the good, the bad, the ugly, everything in between. But we need you guys to subscribe to this channel in order for us to keep giving you guys free videos. They'll always be free. Just let us feel the love by subscribing in this video. Go to the big red button right now. Lastly, I'd say just a sloppy overall defense. I mean, there's no covering it. It just wasn't good. And you can't let the Vikings put up 30 points and expect Russell. Sure, you can't expect Russell to put up 30 points. I'm not saying that you can't expect that, but we need to do a better job at run defense. That's the biggest concern for me. When you look at what Alexander Mattison did, he had 26 carries for 112 yards, 59 reception yards. And this isn't even their best guy. We talked about the problems with Derrick Henry that were caused last week. And then we said, hey, with Dalvin Cook, if he's going to be playing, this is going to be a problem. I was relieved a little bit when I heard Dalvin Cook wasn't going to be in, but then Mattison goes up and puts up points as if puts up yards as if he is Dalvin Cook. So this is an area that needs to be improved. And you look at this D-line and go, hey, some of this falls on leaders. It falls on guys like Carlos Dunlap. It falls on all of them, to be honest. But I will say I did like what Dunlap did in I think it was the second quarter. He kind of tipped off a pass from Kirk Cousins, and that was at least something positive we can point out. But these are areas that will lose games. If you guys cannot look and say, hey, you're getting run all over the place. You've got your second string running back putting up over 100 yards in a game. No defense. There's no pass rush. There is just so many sloppy issues on defense for me. So yes, we can look at the offense and say, hey, maybe that's your biggest problem. Russell Wilson needs to start putting more points up in the second half. I agree. But also, until the defense comes together, what are we going to do? Be in a shootout every single week? It's not going to fly, especially in this competitive NFC West. So for me, I have a couple different concerns. But if you guys could pick out just one concern from this game, just one, go to the comments right now and let me know what your biggest concern is after this week 3 matchup.